Hi, Rob. Thanks for joining me on Behind the Build. I'm Paul Drake, and this podcast is all about getting real insights from leaders in housing, manufacturing, and construction. There's no scripts, there's no sugarcoating, and it's great exposure for you and your organisation. Here's how I'd like to structure our conversation this morning. I want to understand a bit of background about you, the trends you're seeing in industry, whether that's technology, market shifts, or operational changes, the challenges that you're facing right now, and where you'd like to take the organisation over the next 6 to 12 months. We'll wrap up at the end with any insights that we might find valuable. Does that all sound good?
Sounds great, yeah. Good
Good
to be
man.
here.
We're looking about 40 minutes or so, and we'll kick off with a bit about you. So if you would mind telling me about yourself, Rob, what's your role and how did you end up in this position, please?
Right, so I'm Rob Saggs. I'm the CEO of a charity in the Essex area called Chess Homeless. And yeah, we do some work with homeless individuals, supported housing and accommodation. And I'm sure we'll talk a bit about that in going forward. I suppose how I got into this job is ridiculous, to be honest. I'm a qualified chef, so my claim to fame is I've cooked for the now king. So that was back in the day. And then the chef in life is just a crazy busy life, and you soon realise that you don't have a wide sphere of network of friends outside the industry, and I think that's what put me off. So I ended up doing all sorts of other things, which actually have stood me in really good stead for the role I have now. So I've done maintenance, I've done operations management, I've run marquee companies, I've done outside catering. I started to go down the whole route of being a policeman. Quite fancied doing that, so passed all the tests to become an officer. Sadly, my hearing let me down through my drumming and stuff, and I ended up being a minister for a number of years, and then actually my heart beats with making a difference. So this role that I currently have, working with the homeless individuals we work with, it ticks so many boxes in my world. I think so. Making a difference, helping people is a big passion of mine. Therefore, that's why I do what I do, I suppose.
Well, quite an eclectic mix of jobs.
I know it's mad,
Interesting.
it really is. And I hadn't been in any job longer than 4 years, because I've done some of those psychometric things and stuff like that. And it says that you like a challenge. I've been in this role 15 years, so I think that says enough. It's a very challenging position.
Good. Well, that brings us on to the next sort of topic then is, tell us about the organization then. What does it do? Give us a high level overview.
Yeah. So, as mentioned, we are Chess Homeless, and we operate in 8 local authorities in the Essex area. And it's not like the places we operate are Chelmsford, Epping, Malden, Braintree, Rochford, Castle Point, Uttlesford, and Brentwood. But it's those districts, and there's 15 authorities in the Essex area, two of them being unitary authorities. And I think from an interesting point that we'll probably come on to in a bit is we're about to go through local government restructure. So there's a devolution happening. So those 15 local authorities are either going to be 3 or 4 or 5. So you can imagine the kind of up in the air stuff we're going through at the moment, working through that with our local authorities, our districts, and the county council. So we operate in those 8 local authorities. We have accommodation. We provide supported accommodation to single homeless adults. Up until recently, we were working with a domestic abuse charity as well for helping women flee domestic abuse. We've been in operation since the early 90s, and I was fortunate enough to meet one of the founders fairly recently at a presentation I was doing, and he was an elderly gentleman in his 80s, and he stopped me and said, "Young man," which I liked from the very outset.
Always nice.
And he said, "You were." I was one of those founders in the upper room, he said, where we just said, let's just have a go. And I think that is a problem with maybe people aren't as edgy as we used to be. Let's just have a
Mm.
go, and now we're here, delivering what we're delivering to 8 local authorities. We have an outreach team that works with those 8 local authorities. We have housing, support, accommodation, lots of therapeutic stuff as well. And do our best to support people back into independent living. But like I say, working with sort of adults only currently. Had a constitutional change where we could work with families, but my goodness, I think we've got enough on our hands currently with the adults only element. So yeah, that's pretty much what we do. Team of about 50 of us, 24/7 service, and properties are majority of them are based in Chelmsford, the Chelmsford area. And then we have another sort of couple of properties in other local districts. But what we're trying to do is work with those local authorities so that we can have a property or properties in each one that shows a sort of they'll have like a route through into independent living. So my outreach team go out on the streets and meet the clients, the prospective clients that we have. So they will be referred to us through the Street Link. The Street Link web, any member of the public can go on the Street Link and report a rough sleeper. It's nationwide, and that then enables an organisation like us to go out to the individual that they've seen and hopefully be able to help them. But obviously, sometimes accommodation is an issue. Sometimes the way people might present might be challenging, but we do our darndest to work with everybody and anybody. And then obviously from there, they'll come into our assessment centres. We do a needs and risk assessment. They'll come into our assessment centres where there's 24/7 staff and security, and then work through support plans that hopefully then see them move on from the assessment centre to the next sort of stage accommodation, which is partial supported, as in there's staff there 5 to 10 hours a day. And then likewise to the next stage, which is the final stage where there's no staff on site. Most of them are houses of multiple occupancy, and then move into independence. And with one of the things we do still offer is longer term support, because we don't want to see the people coming back to our
Yeah.
door again. Sadly, we do see sometimes, because they feel like some of our clients have said, when they moved out, they had all the support and all the friendships that you build, the clients, the staff, the volunteers, build those support networks. And then that individual, sadly, sometimes just has dropped in the past, where they end up on the streets again, or rough sleeping, sofa surfing again. So for us, I think it's really important to offer that longer element of support, because in the nicest way possible, we don't want to see them as a client.
Yeah. So on those pathways, then, do you manage and record the data around how many?
Oh my goodness, yeah. We are a data heavy organization, which that's been one of our successes. I would say that we've in the past, we haven't done it really properly since the pandemic, because it takes quite a lot of effort. We do social accounting. So we've done through the social audit network. So there's different ways you can do it, and we've done it through social audit network, which has got a basic level and an enhanced level, and we've adapted both of them. There's like a 14 chapter book you can get to go through. Me and one of my trustees, Andy Murphy, we're authors of this riveting read. It's Chess Homeless Social Accounting. But I think the big deal around it is, where we, for argument's sake, let's say our turnover was 1 million, we're able to verify and show that the social and economic value we've given back is anything from 3.6 million to 5, and there's lots of rationale around it. And one of the obvious ones is, if you've got a rough sleeper, they will go to the doctors 8 times more than a housed person. Likewise, in winter, we had a client who went to A&E 27 times before they came into Chess, because it was warm, and then obviously presenting with health issues, which they will have had. But obviously the cost of that, once you walk through the door and your name is on the system, there's a cost. I think it's something like £250 we were doing it, just to have your name down. That's before you've seen a doctor or a physician or whoever, you need to see. Those are the elements that we put into that, on top of 1,000,001 other metrics as well. But it's brilliant, because when you use those sort of tools, you're then able to show and verify the value of your organization, and actually we had a funder come to us and say they wanted to cut our funding, and what would that mean to us? And I said, well, for us, that would look like us seriously having to reconsider whether we do certain elements of our provision. And I said, however, for you, what that would look like, if we lose a 5-bedroom house, that's going to see an increase to the public purse, your spending of X amount of pounds based upon our social and economic value. So we was able to verify it. And funnily enough, we were so fortunate, we didn't see those cuts come our way, which was, was really good news. And there's another other local provider who they don't know, but because of us, they didn't lose their funding as well. So, all that data is
Yeah.
really, really rich. And I cannot sort of express enough how important it is to capture it. So like last year, see if I get my figures right. Last year we housed, I think it was something like 123 people went through our service, and then we prevented 170. Basically, the round figure was 300. So whichever the difference in those figures is, so it's like 170 and 130. We just say those as round figures. We housed 130, and we prevented 170 people from becoming homeless. That's 300 individuals from a little charity, or a medium-sized charity that aren't on the streets, that are getting the help they need, that are readjusting their world so that they hopefully don't become homeless. So these are massive figures, really, when you take into consideration. And I don't like harping about costs, because it's a person's life that's the most important thing. But the cost is a significant factor that we need to bear in mind.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. You seen any trends right now in the industry? I mean, you've touched on data
Yeah,
quite heavily. AI presenting itself to you? I'm sure it is in some way, shape, or form.
yeah. I mean, AI is an interesting one. We are trend wise, from the person based perspective, we are seeing more people approach our service, um, and the difference, I suppose, the trend is that we're seeing people approach our service who are working and living it out of cars, living out
Mm.
of vehicles, and that's quite shocking. I think, trying to hold down a job, trying to maybe keep your life flowing, that must be so hard. And even Amazon have picked onto it. You go onto Amazon and look at, beds for cars. There's all sorts of innovations now, which you think, oh man, alive, this shouldn't be. Um, but before the pandemic, so just to harping back a little bit, we we housed we were a small provider, sort of 6 houses, 32 individuals we were working with, and then in the and then our referral rate will have been the number of people that we couldn't meet the need on a monthly basis was anything from, let's say, 12 to 17 each month. And we do live data, like I said to you before, we're very data heavy. Whereas now we're 88 bed spaces, and we're looking at around anything from 40 to 60 each month we can't meet the need on. And you sort of think that's just crazy, that we've done everything we can, ran as fast as we can to keep up, and you just can't. It's like that Temple Run game, you can't. Other games are
Yeah.
available. You can't keep up, can you? It's just mad. Really is. So the trends, I suppose, that AI is becoming more and more prevalent. The use of it. I'm a bit of a skeptic with it all, to be honest. But it certainly has its uses. Um, Money. So money is a massive challenge, and I think as we've, I think, was it something like 2 out of 5 charities are closing down at this moment in time, due to resources, funds not being there, that is scary when we're considered to be the third sector. And I liken that to like a milk stall. The three, I've heard someone say it before, the three-legged stool. And actually, if you take the statutory sector, the business sector, and the third sector, and consider each of those as the pins, you remove any one of them, the whole thing falls over. So like the third sector picks up so many pieces that others aren't able to, and where you're seeing 2 out of 5 looking at closure. We're literally in the middle of taking over a charity that have approached us saying we don't want to see it close. Will you take us over? And you sort of think, and we've already had one other charity locally close down as well. So these are desperate times, very desperate
Mm.
times.
Yeah, yeah, very much so. So, are you using any sort of technology or tech to help you manage the operational side of things? So, if you're bringing in another one, do they get the benefit of what you're doing internally to manage that more efficiently?
So yeah, we use something that Homeless Link provided, called Inform, or provided. It's called Inform. It's a CRM platform that tracks and monitors our client information, and therefore, if somebody's using, let's say, for argument's sake, they've struggled with substance misuse, and then we're monitoring and working with them as well as external agencies. Our regular meetings with that individual will track and monitor the trends of that person as well as others, so that we can actually show the difference the services what making, as well as actually if it isn't working, what can we do, how can we do things differently, how can we regroup and reshape. It's a really, and we're able to extract a lot of information from that. That's our main one, which is really important. Obviously we have our financial packages as well, that obviously they're very useful. We've actually got a new one that we implemented. We moved away from, remember the old one, Sage. We moved away from Sage and we've moved onto a new platform, which has been brilliant. Really good. But Inform is the main one for us that makes so much sense. So it's we're able to retrieve so much data, as well as in it when we're doing when I've got a grant that comes in, for certain specific things, we're also able to track and monitor how we're using our grant funding and what difference it's making. So we're a lottery. We've got a bit of lottery funding for a few years, which has been phenomenal, because it's a long-term funding stream that you can rely on year, which is one of the major issues I think that we'll get onto. But that's so helpful, because annually I can just report back, this is what we did this year. These are the differences it made. This is a case study from an individual, and that's the beauty of it. When you can put a case study in, that the life that's changed makes a difference, because the pounds and pence are one thing and the data's one thing, but actually the person's life. And when you hear their story, that's what puts the smile on people's faces, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that's why you do it, isn't it? It's not about the money.
No, totally.
Yeah, so you mentioned a few challenges, and there's probably a few more that we could probably dig into, but do you see any opportunities in there? Is it not all sort of challenging in that sense?
Say that again, sorry?
Do you see any opportunities? So we've talked about a few of the challenges. Are there any
Yeah.
opportunities in there?
Yeah, I think there's loads of opportunities. I think partnership opportunities are out there if people are open to that. I think if there's struggling charities or struggling organisations, um, then I'm very much a firm believer we don't want to see stuff closed down. We want to see provisions provided well. I think that's really important as well. So let's learn best practice and deliver best practice. But likewise, partner with people that are bigger than yourself, understand how to work, in a better way. If you're seeing anybody do stuff well, um, chase them, ask them questions. I do that all the time. I'm really open to learning. I want us to be, a really high quality provider. And there's always areas where we can improve. So for me, it's always looking at the bigger charities. How can I do this better? We have had a circumstance recently where we've been thrown. I don't know what to do with this one. Wow. Right. Okay. I'll put it out to my network. I'll put it out to the cohorts I know, and I'll approach some people I've got a really good friend who's a CEO of a £23 million charity. So it's like, I'll ask that person. So I think that's a great opportunity in delivering, and getting sort of new innovations out there. I think also those opportunities for just thinking outside the box. I think we're in a place now where we have to think outside the box. And obviously we haven't talked yet about sort of development and housing, but for me, we had the opportunity. I presume it's a good time to talk about our development.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
let's move on to that. Yeah.
Yeah. So we had the opportunity. We were really fortunate during the pandemic. Sorry, harping back to it all the time, but it's like a BC, isn't it? Before COVID moment, and then the new world we all live in. So before the pandemic, we were pottering along. We'd done a little development on an old listed building, and it kind of enhanced our service, and we were kind of getting out there in the local authorities doing some good stuff. We're fortunate enough to be able to work very closely with the county council. And the county council took an interest in what we were delivering and the outreach, that is. And then there was opportunity for the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government to fund some initiatives. And the county approached us and said, "You're working in," I think we were working in Malden, Chelmsford, Epping, and we were just about to sign Braintree up. And they were saying, "You're working in these 4 areas. Could we bring another one in," which was Rochford, and get you all under a partnership that the MHCLG will fund, and, just do outreach together in the county? Right, yeah, it makes so much sense. So we did that for a year, I think a year or 2 years, and then the others came on, which would have been, gosh, I can only rattle them off. Refer to what I said earlier on: Chelmsford and
Yep.
Maldenbury, Rochford, Castle Point, Uttlesford and Brentwood. So Castle Point, Uttlesford and Brentwood. And so they came on board, and then we had these 8 local authorities. That obviously then got us a voice into the Ministry of Housing, which we have one of their reps sit in those meetings that we have on a monthly basis, and they're able to see and understand what we're delivering. In that time, there was different pots of funding coming out to get rough sleepers off the streets, and we were given the opportunity to rent a 9-bedroom motel just outside of Chelmsford on the Stock Galleywood Road. And so we'd done some work in this property years ago when we were running sort of winter-based projects, and we took on the opportunity, 9 beds, sort of motel-style accommodation, and it was brilliant, actually. It was really, really good. And it was owned by the Jehovah's Witnesses, who had bought it because they have their national printing press on the site. So they rented it to us. MHCLG funded it. Happy days. But then there was the opportunity for the purchase of that site. And I sort of approached my board and said, let's run at this because this could be a brilliant opportunity. I knew we'd got some money parked for us from the local authority to do a development elsewhere. So I said, can we see if we can change the use of that funding so that we get long-term use of this property and we could possibly develop it as well? And then out of the blue, we had another funder come our way, and they funded us the money needed to purchase the site. So phenomenal story. It cost us £1,400 to buy the site out of our own pocket. So,
Wow.
these are the sort of stories you kind of think never
Yeah.
happen. And I just say to people, hang in there, because I was one of those people. And we bought a freehold of a site worth 1.2 million for £1,400.
Wow.
Incredible. Yeah, quite incredible. And then obviously, as we owned it and going through the pandemic, I was starting to think, there was a lot of wasted space. I would say 55% of that site was used. The rest of it was wasted space, nothing happening on it. So I started to look at these modular builds that people were doing, and went and visited a few and thought, we could just get half a dozen of them at that end. We'd have our own unique sort of provision. So you've got the supported accommodation, and then you've got independent accommodation as well, which I thought would be brilliant. And then I started to pitch this to my board, and they were like, yeah, that sounds like a positive move. What are they going to cost? And then during all this, the MHCLG released some funding with Homes England, which sat under the SHAP funding, the Single Homeless Accommodation Project funding. And we aren't a registered provider. So currently, Chess is a charity only. We're not a registered housing provider. We are going down that status now, but we aren't currently. So the SHAP money became available to registered providers, and if we was to go for it, we could apply to a registered provider to go for it on our behalf. Chelmsford City Council are a registered provider, and they were able to apply for the funding for us through a Section 31, I think it was. So we put the initial application in, which, let me say, was a lot. And I use the word lot of hard work. I remember sitting up one night until 1 a.m. And usually when you're filling in applications, you get a tracker that shows you how far you are into it. And some of these things like 500 words, 750 words, question after question. I was 90 in, and I'm like, I'm pulling my hair out because I don't even know how far I've got to go. But there was 114, and we managed to meet the deadline, which got us 1.5 million. And we started to sort of tease out what we were wanting to do on the site. And obviously, we wanted to get as much property on there, as many modular homes on there as we could, so that we were offering a better provision. And we established we could get 24 modular homes on there with the demolition of the original motel building, but retaining the large communal space. So what we've got on that site now is a large communal space, offices, professionally kitted out kitchen, um, uh, sort of independent breakout areas, and then 24 modular homes. In the middle of the modular home units, there's one that's sort of a reception office type space. And then there's also another one that's a training room for DIY skills and that sort of thing. So there's 26 units on that, as well as the original site. And so we went for this MHCLG funding, and we got it. So we got our seed funding, which I think it made the whole project look attractive. People were like, oh, wow. Well, I remember sitting in a Homeless Link conference and saying to them, right, we've just got the seed funding, and this will have been 2023, I think. And the project's going to cost about 2.7 million, and we've just got to raise, another 1.1. And a lot of people were shaking their head going, Rob, best of luck, mate. Best of luck. Can't see it happening. Best of luck. Anyway, we did a big presentation at quite a nice, prestigious place. Got some people on board, and launched the appeal. And we got to about 900,000. So we did really well. And there was a 2-stage tender process we were going through. And we were about 180, let's say 180,000 short, and it wasn't going to happen unless we met that 2.7. So I went back to the MHCLG and said, look, this is where we're at. Can't make it happen. My board won't go for it unless, can I ask for a bit more? And that's a very rare occasion, Rob. Probably not, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, we got funded, and so the board were able to proceed with it, and 2.7. Then we went through the second stage process, had lots of external professionals involved working with us, some incredible organisations actually that were a lifesaver for us. And the second stage obviously revealed some anomalies that we maybe hadn't come up, and so there was another 400,000-500,000 to find, and you're like, oh, I've exploited every avenue I know how to go at. Anyway, I went back to everybody.
Yeah.
Guys, don't know what to do. Here we go. This is where we're at. Some people came out of the woodwork. Some amazing organisations came forward. And I know Essex Community Foundation, I have to mention them, were exceptional. And they covered a massive chunk. It'll be in their report, but I need to big them guys up because they were exceptional. Obviously, City Council threw some stuff in as well. And we basically nearly met the full 3.2 million, arguably fully funded, but there's still a little gap that we've had to fund ourselves. But a phenomenal journey, and the clients that now live there, I've heard some of them have nearly been in tears, and some are like, oh my goodness, this is just amazing. So what we have now is Hill, Volumetric, and their Duo House are all the modular homes that we have. I think the beautiful thing about those homes is that they're not a container. They're built specific for what our needs are. They've got a 60-year BOPAS accreditation on them. And that in itself is incredible, that you could get a mortgage for one of these. My mum, God bless her, she came and had a look at the site before we opened, and she said, Robert, I could have one of these in my garden. They're so beautiful. And they're amazing. They're incredible units of accommodation that we've now got as a part of our portfolio for helping homeless individuals. They're all nominated bed rights to Chelmsford. So obviously part of our partnership in that with the MHCLG and Chelmsford City Council is that they have to have nominated bed rights. So that's the way they land. And but 24, an increased provision of 24 individual homes is a gift, absolute gift.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's a ringing endorsement from your mum, and it seems like you've come an awful long way since COVID.
Yeah.
Well done. You've done a tremendous
Thank
job.
you.
So where would you say the organisation is positioned in the market then, if that is even a thing? You mentioned that you're taking on other charities that are struggling. Is there a position in the market, would you say?
I suppose in our area, we're definitely, we've got a good reputation, and I would say the reputation is because I'm very much a firm believer we're transparent in who and what we are. We deliver, and we deliver well. We do the best with the resources we have. My team, I cannot big up my team enough. I've got an incredible team, from ops down to service departments, exceptional people. I don't want to blow our trumpet, but I would say we're pretty all right. We do good. We do good. I don't want to say we're market leaders because that's arrogant.
No, no, no. I was going to ask you what you do extraordinarily well, but yeah, I think you've kind of answered that, which is
Yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And,
yeah.
and you've also
And
touched
then,
on what your clients
sorry.
say about you. So is there a common theme when they go, "Wow, this is amazing"? Is that the common theme that they say about what you do for them?
People are people, aren't there? There's some that do. There's some that don't. There's some that are out there that, sadly, I suppose that's sort of entitled element of life. There are those, but likewise, there are those that are so grateful on the development that we've got, the Turning Point development, the 24 modular homes. 12 of them are all level access, so we ensured that they were mobility enabled effectively, so that if you've got mobility issues, you've got a level threshold to get over. Everything is quite accessible. And then the two that are closest to the main building, they're full M4 compliant. Therefore, if you've got significant health issues, that you can be in there with those issues. And definitely, one of our clients, he sort of said to me in person, "Rob, I'd be dead without this, and I can't ever thank you enough." And you do get the ones and twos that want to talk to you. It's always nice to get those little one-to-ones where you do just sort of get to hear a bit of the story and understand a bit more of their journey. But a lot of people, a lot of adults that are homeless, they want to consider it being a blip in their life, which I totally get, so we get numerous opportunities to do some publicity stuff, and we ask a client, would you be willing? No, 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 I don't want to be, I don't want that to be remembered about my life, but there are the ones and twos that are like, yeah, I do. One story in particular, there was one gentleman who came in, and I'll never forget his story when he did it on video. It made me cry first time I saw it. He was a teacher, family, everything going really, really well. And then I think something pretty drastic happened in his working career. Therefore, he lost his job, got depressed, understandably. And sadly, that saw the demise of his family life, his wife and everything. They all left him. And he was homeless. He left the house, the family home. He became homeless. I remember him saying he was sleeping behind the bins at Marks and Spencer's in Chelmsford, and was going to, all sorts of horrendous stuff going through his mind. And then he came into chess. And then because it was Christmas Eve, I think it was, and he couldn't see his son, he was like, I'm done. He was considering to take his own life and had it all planned out what he was going to do. And then when he came back that evening, one of my team, incredible woman, Barbara, she always goes round and delivers sacks of presents to every client. So they've got them on their beds. Every client will have a sack of presents on Christmas Eve. And
Nice.
because of that gesture, which it's just something she's always wanted to do and always done, bless her. Because of that gesture, he didn't take his own life. And
Wow.
now he's now, I think now he works with social services, helping young people, and does loads of stuff that's amazing. An incredible guy, and you just sort of think it's those sort of things that actually do just spin the world for us in what we
Yeah,
deliver and what we do.
that's nice. Random act of kindness. It's lovely, isn't it? Uh,
Yeah.
good. Moving on to the organisation then. So where do you see it going, or where would you like to see it going next sort of 6 to 12 months? Do you have plans?
Well, I think, yeah, with LGR, with the local government restructure, I definitely want us to be one of the major players in the Essex area. So we're looking at how we can, maybe set up more properties in going forward, working closely with those councils. But currently, we don't know whether there's going to be 3, 4, or 5 local authorities. So that's the unknown. So we're doing all we can with the 8 and others that we know of currently. And the county are setting up meetings. So I think in answer to your question, we've been an Essex provider. We want to continue to be an Essex provider, and increasing the provision and the accommodation is obviously where we want to go.
On that same topic, then, what's been your biggest struggle to date? Would you say? Would you say it's the funding? Because it's obviously key to everything you do, isn't it? If without money, you can't put in the provision. You
Yeah.
can't really do an awful lot.
Yeah, and I think I would say that. I think money is the biggest challenge for us all. We're fortunate that we've been able to nut down what we do, keep doing what we're doing. Um, but when you spin it all back, if you had more financial resources, you could do better. You could do more, where we've had maybe a few staff come and go. If we're able to remunerate them better, the stresses that I've had over the last few years have been on another level, and they've all been surrounding finances. I just sort of feel like where you're delivering these sort of services, your remuneration needs to be there, and we can verify what it goes on. None of it's wasted. It's all good, well spent. A lot of it we get. A lot of the stuff we do, you receive. But donations to enhance what you're doing, and volunteers working alongside you. Yeah, I would say it's boring, I know, but finances are the biggest issue, and meeting the need. Where we are looking at 40 odd people, 40 to 60 people, we can't meet the need on, and that's growing. We need land. We can do more modular developments. One of the things I didn't mention was how fast we can do these modular developments. We got planning permission. I think it was the 7th of September 2024, and met practical completion on the 31st of March 2025. 6
Wow,
months, and that's fast.
it's really good. So where do these modular homes come from then?
So we got ours through Hill Volumetric, and they had some available, and they one minute there was nothing on the site, it was demolished, and within a week, within 5 working days, there was 25 modular units on that site. The fifth one, the one in the middle being the office sort of space, but 25, from nothing to 25 in 5 days. And I rocked up. So I went on the first day of delivery because I had a meeting in Brentwood, and I saw these modular homes on the back of these lorries. I'm like, there are modular homes. So I had the quickest meeting ever, turned around and came back, and there was 4 of them on lorries. And then when I got back, there was only 2 on site. So I was like, hi, how we doing, guys? Hi, yeah, great. So how many are coming today? Oh, just the 2. Okay. Why did I see 4 in the lay-by then? I was like, oh, apparently the crane had a bit of a problem. So they literally lost a whole day, but they still delivered. Exceptional
Amazing.
workmanship.
What's the longevity of these units then?
So they've got a 60-year BOPAS accreditation. So they should last 60 years.
Yeah, that's
So,
incredible.
yeah, really
Yeah,
good.
So from a personal perspective then, you mentioned the goals that you where you're trying to go in the next 6 to 12 months. What does achieving those mean to you, Rob?
I think, I suppose from my perspective, it is meeting our mission, delivering what we can, but not breaking people en route. My team, I like a challenge, and the feedback has been, Rob, slow down, and I've taken that on board because one of my team sort of said, it's relentless, Rob, it's relentless. I'm like, okay, we've done some structural changes, so we've put a bit more beef in, and helped some of the team out in assistance and stuff like that. So I'm hoping that actually over these next 6 months, we land where we're all currently at a pace where everyone's comfortable. And then we've got to go through that registered provision status element. So that's another part of what we're doing over the next sort of 12 months. And then after that, I think it will be, we would become an attractive provider in these local authorities because we're a registered provider and we've shown we can deliver. I'd like to think that, it might be a year before we start to do more, but we have to land this current registered status provision that will then see us probably go and do more in going forward.
Mm. Excellent. We're coming to the end of the podcast, Rob. It's been absolutely fantastic. I've loved you being so candid and open with your challenges and opportunities. It's been really good, and interesting that you've cooked for the king. We'll have to have another conversation around that one. But
Sure.
thanks very much for taking part, Rob.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you, Paul.